Hello and welcome to Detective Comics. This is the themed Batman show from the Comic Crush, where the themes are chosen by you, based on the list we give you, of course. This week we are going to be talking about Monsters and Mad Monks. Hemant, how you doing?
I'm not bad, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Excited to talk about these two. Let's just, I'm sure the audience have already guessed what this one is, because this is probably the most obvious of all the kind of hints we've got for the themes. We are talking about the duet that is Batman and the Monster Men and Batman and the Mad Monk, which were both issued under the Dark Moon Rising heading back in about 2006, 2007, I believe this was. They're both written and drawn by Matt Wagner. I think, I can't remember who's on colours for these. I think it is Dave Stewart. I could be wrong though. But these are both really good kind of, I think Wagner at the time described them as year 1.5. Okay. So they're meant to be kind of in the aftermath of Batman year 1. And they also represent a really interesting turning point in the approach to crime in Gotham. Because up until now, it's been the mob, it's been street crime. But then things take a much darker, much weirder turn as these stories progress and in fact head into the supernatural. Were these first-time reads for you?
They were first-time reads, although as I was reading Monster Men, I did have a, wait, I've read this before, haven't I? And at first, so I looked into it, and at first it was like, okay, so they're remakes of really early Detective Comics stories. But then I was like, no, that's not it. And I think it was last year you spoke to, was it Dan Perkins?
Mike Perkins.
And I really enjoyed that interview, so I went and checked that book out first night. And that involves the Monster Men. Right,
okay. That's interesting. That's interesting.
So that's a really, it's a very different take on it. And it's, yeah, I think it was. Otherwise, I completely confused other books. And then I was like, wait, the Monster Men just seem to just keep appearing in Batman sort of almost Genesis stories. Like it's towards the beginning of Tom King's Rebirth thing. Although I think they're like Godzilla monsters. They're not literally monster men.
Yeah. Well, as I said, they are meant to represent a kind of turning point into super crime.
Yeah.
And Hugo Strange is an interesting character, and he pops up quite a bit. And I think the deal with Hugo Strange is later on he finds out Bruce Wayne's secret identity. He also, at one stage, has a great Batman annual. I think it's annual number 10 from around 84, maybe 86, where he gets control of Wayne Manor and locks Bruce out of the manor through some kind of financial shenanigans. And he keeps coming back over the years and worming his way into Wayne Industries. And at one point in Gotham Knights, he pops up as Bruce's psychologist. Like he has to have psychological evaluation as part of the insurance.
Sort of show up as like the head of, I was reading something, he was like the head of Arkham Asylum and stuff. He just seemed to be this character that could just appear anywhere and just be an absolute pain. But I love how he's introduced here, because in like classic comic trope of like just the silhouette, and you know, when you don't know who the narration is by, I think I'm reading Batman, I turn the page and it's little Hugo Strange is doing all this athletic stuff.
I don't know where the thing came from of him being, I think Wagner was the first one to do it, of him being incredibly short. Okay. He's always been bald, But
Yeah, 'cause I was going to ask that because I never had the impression that Hugo Strange was short. I was kind of
no.
confused that he was so short. So is that like a more of a modern interpretation?
I think that, and I think that's exclusive to these stories or to this book.
Yeah.
But also we have, you know, Batman on the case. There are some quite brutal murders going on. It's early in the relationship with Jim Gordon. So he's kind of learning to trust him, or he does trust the Batman, because following on from year one, he sort of saved the life of Jim Gordon's son. And you know, some of it's quite brutal. Finding bits of women everywhere.
Yeah, especially considering the art style. It's a interesting sort of juxtaposition of sort of brutal murders and a more almost cartoony style, which I really like.
Yeah, it is in keeping with kind of Darwin Cook, with Bruce Timm almost. Not quite Allred, because Allred has a very kind of pop influence on his work, I think. I mean, I don't know what you'd call it. There's this kind of crayony watercolor-esque look to Wagner's stuff. That I don't know how much he kind of leans on the colorist to get that, but that is a feature of Wagner's work. He did a great Batman Legends of Dark Knight story called Faces years ago that was like 3 issues, which if you can get is well worth checking out. But yeah, I mean, here he was kind of, I think, given free rein to just do what he wanted.
Okay.
And I don't know if he pitched it to them or they pitched it to him. But he got to kind of do these books. I think they were done back to back, you know, which helps immensely with the storytelling, considering that so many characters reoccur throughout the 2 books.
Yeah, it does feel like one story.
Yeah.
There is a through line, especially with Julie Madison.
Yeah. So Julie Madison is canonically a one-time girlfriend of Bruce Wayne, I believe. She pops up in at least one of the original Detective Comics stories. I can't remember if it's Mad Monk or the Monster Men, or you know, whatever those stories were called back then. So I don't even think they were actually called those things. And she's dating Bruce Wayne. You know, she finds him quite infuriating in terms of like his late night disappearances and stuff like this. Cancelling dates at the last minute. This is kind of a typical trope that occurs throughout Batman comics. Bruce is never quite kind of happy in love.
I like how it's really sort of leaned into a bit more, almost not quite like a sitcom. I mean, it's kind of played for laughs with Alfred, but there is some real tragedy there, because it's not just, oh, Bruce, where were you? You know, he does the lazy excuses of, oh, I had to work. It's like, what, at night? You know, there's an excuse later about where did you get those injuries from, and he claims he did it polo. And there's this incredulity of night polo. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and also the isn't there one where he says he slipped on a rake? Or
I think she's got a bullet wound or something, and he says, "Don't you see, that's a ski injury." But I love that it's really awkward. It really, you know, Ragnar really sort of turns it up to, how would you get away with this? Like, how could you get away with this? And the answer seems to be, he's just incredibly hot, because she knows something's not right here. And, you know, I think in her own narration, because it flips between different characters, the little narration bars, doesn't it? She's like, any other guy, I would have left it, you know, I would have ditched him by now. But it just keeps coming back to, Bruce Wayne's so damn hot. You know, she never says that, but that's the subtext. Like, there's no other reason why she would be giving Bruce the time of day. Because she's rich herself. It's not even, oh, she's there for the money. She's a socialite, daughter of a socialite herself. So she's a lawyer, or going to become a lawyer. She doesn't need money. So
Yeah.
it purely is, she's just infatuated with Bruce. So she just keeps giving him a chance. And he just shows time and time again, he's just the worst boyfriend.
He is, and it is a consistent kind of theme that runs through these things. Arguably, I think she is one of the most tragic kind of the Batman girlfriends. Even more so than Vesper Fairchild, who gets murdered much later on in Bruce Wayne's life. I think she's right up there, because the stuff that happens to her in this,
it's
not really because of Bruce, but because because of her dad.
None of it is Bruce's fault, but
no,
Bruce. I mean, he's an integral part of it. You can't, we'll get to her final letter to him at the end, and it's true in that you can't separate Bruce from her tragedy. He might not have been the cause. In some ways, he indirectly was, but you can't separate the Batman from the misery she's going to carry for the rest of her life, which is amazing. Because it is kind of light-hearted at first, and it ends in real tragedy. Because it's interspersed with Alfred, isn't it? Like doing the typical like long-standing. I think she wakes up and he's like, "Oh, your clothes are folded in the next room. You had to go to work," and it's like, "I can give you a lift back to the city." And I think he even tells her, like, "You know what? Bruce is really busy. I don't see that changing. Maybe you should just not be with Bruce." No. He tries. He just seems exasperated that he's having to deal with this.
Completely, because you would be. He can't make the choice between the war and his love life, really. And I think indirectly this is the kind of stuff that leads to Robin factoring into his life later on. Even though really he doesn't kind of then take a break, it just gets more intense. And I really like Judy Madison. She is a character that's popped up again and again in various iterations, I believe. I'm not sure how some of the later writers handled her in sort of like the New 52 or what have you, if she features in there. But I like her as a character. And I kind of really wish, if this had been done in the main book somehow, as kind of year 3, I would have liked to have seen her handled for a bit. I would like to see her in the book more. I think she's a good character. And of course, her dad, is it Norman?
Norman, yeah.
Yeah, who really is kind of responsible for a lot of the tragedy that happens here. I always think these things become like this perfect storm of shit. Yeah. And that's what happens, is that a bunch of separate events all happening separately slowly coincide together. So that you have
perfect, like structurally, it's written perfectly. In like you've got the A plot, the B plot, the C plot. You've got Bruce and Julie, you've got Strange and the Monster Men, and then you've got Norman and Maroni. Yeah. And then Strange and Maroni also get interconnected slowly, and then the A plot comes in. And I love the difference between Strange and Norman Madison's approach to loan sharks. So they both need money. Strange for his Monster Men experiments. Norman because he can't quite make payroll, and if he went to the bank for a loan, well, his name would be ruined. which I don't quite get, but
Yeah.
he seems like, look, I've got to go to the mob. Okay,
Yeah.
his
It does.
his approach is like the typical, it's the what I would say the Barry from EastEnders approach of just going into real misery and being hunted down by loan sharks, and like this is going to end badly. You've seen this story a million times. I love Hugo Strange's approach of, how am I going to pay this back? What's the assistant called? Sanjay. He's just Strange's solution to almost everything in the story is, Sanjay, can you just follow these people, find out where they live, and I'm just going to send some monsters to kill them. Like his approach to paying back the loan was like sending his monsters to steal money from like an illegal mob gambling front, and then
Moroni's illegal.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I love it.
It's the illegal gambling game of the guy that he's borrowed the money from, and I do love the fact that they're kind of hip to that as well. They're just like, let's make sure there's no more incidents around the time you need to make the next payment. And I, it shows the reach of crime into like that sort of street level crime into Gotham, but also it shows how that crime is going to get wiped out and be superseded by the type of things that Professor Hugo Strange is doing, and that's what I like about this book, because what it is and the next book is the crossover point. It's the point of no return, where Gotham becomes someplace different.
Yeah, because Jim Gordon keeps referring to it like, oh God, what is becoming of this city?
Yeah,
like the fact that he's just letting Batman into a crime scene before his own, because it's like, we just can't deal with this. And I think, to your earlier point, this is a Batman that has become almost overconfident and I think quite cocky. Like I think my favorite panel in this is when he drags a mobster screaming into the shadows. It's absolutely like brilliant. He's just standing out there with the mobster's leg, and then you can't see Batman anymore because he steps into the shadows. And he's having fun. He's like, fear is the only thing these animals understand. It's just, it's absolutely outrageous. Like, no one, like, he knows he's going to win this war. Like, it's only a matter of time. There's only so many more drug busts and what have you he needs to do, and then his war's over. He's done. And he's only been doing this a few years, if that. So there is a cockiness to him. And I think these stories show him, well, your war's about to change, and might not be quite ready for this.
Yeah, completely. And also, it's that complacency extends to Julie.
Mm-hmm.
It extends, even it's shown in a microcosm as well, in the guy that he deals with on the dock, who's been beaten up by the criminals, that he then apprehends, and he goes, "Don't worry, you'll be fine. The police and the emergency services will turn up soon." But then later on, we find that guy in like a mental hospital. I don't know if it's Arkham, but he's in a mental hospital because the mob have had him put there. So it's easier to kind of stop him from talking. And it's just like, no. Like this stuff is seeped into the bones now. And, then it gets worse. And I kind of love that fact. It is quite a simple plot. Norman owes money, Strange owes money, Batman's there in the middle, and yet you can see that sort of ripple effect coming out and about to kind of lay waste to everything.
Yeah,
and it does, and that great scene where he invades sort of Strange's lab and gets trapped and finds out what he's up against. So it's just like.
There's a great line actually that Strange says, like, you're trespassing on private property, or this is a private lab, and Batman just snipes back straight away. Yeah, and you're doing illegal experiments.
Yeah. Like this is the thing. He's not going to kind of. Sorry, folks. Slight loss of picture and sound there. But he's kind of, he's there to kind of, it's not like anything normal. It's just like, what is this? And I think even for him, he must start to feel the way Gordon feels. Like he must start to feel like, hold on, like this is slightly out of my
I feel like the fight he has with the Monster Men, which takes most of it, might have been it was either issue 3 or 4. He's literally locked in a room with the Monster Men for most of the issue, and his fight is very detective-y in that, all his narration is he's working out how to get out of this impossible situation.
Sorry, I lost you there. It's very what?
It's very what was I going to say? Like methodical.
I lost you there, mate. What were you saying about it? The fight was?
Oh, it's sort of very almost methodical in his. He's completely outmatched. He doesn't know what the hell to do against these big guys, and he's just itemizing all the ways to get out. And I think Strange is impressed that he's managed it basically with just a pair of handcuffs. But I think this is where Bruce sort of understands the game has changed.
Yeah, completely. It is kind of that shift from the war on crime to the war on madness, really. We see there like just the sort of immense size that the Monster Men have, and I think it's hinted that later on we found out one of those is sort of Sanjay's brother, which is again very grim. It's very kind of, but you're never told what
the prince of the Monster Men, isn't he?
Yeah, and you're never told what the affliction is that his brother has had, that Hugo has tried to cure. And again, you see the intimidation in progress there. I think this is from towards the end of the book, as Batman tries to deal with Norman's problems with Maroni. Did you think these fit quite nicely into that kind of early period? Were you happy with them?
I quite liked it because it is that, because I do really enjoy Batman beating on the mob, and I'm like the almost monster of the week stories. I don't always really love with Batman. I think I like the more, even if they're monstrous villains, I think I like the monstrous villain more. But that said, I really enjoyed this. Like, this is, like, on paper, I didn't think I was going to enjoy Batman versus essentially Frankenstein's monsters. But yeah, the story, I think it works fantastically.
And I've gone back to this quite a few times, although it has been a long time since I've read it. Until like last week when I took a look at it, and it surprised me, as for you, just how well plotted it all is, and just how tight like the cogs and the wheels of the book are, but also just how beautiful some of Wagner's kind of penciling and Dave Stewart's color work is. It's really nice.
I was actually quite surprised that I hadn't come across this book sort of before, and like people aren't clamoring for maybe more of an oversized art, because the art is really fat. Like, this is worth owning for the art alone.
I'll tell you exactly why you're not getting this. So the last time this was released was in a book called I think it's Tales of the Dark Knight or Legends of the Dark Knight, Batman by Matt Wagner, which was like a series of hardcovers that DC were doing. I only own a few of these because I think they were single printing that Sherlock kind of books that collected work by either a particular writer or a particular artist. So they did J.H. Williams, they did Carmine Infantino, they did, I think it wasn't Englehart, but Archie Goodwin. I can't remember who the others are off the top of my head. I missed the Wagner one, which had this, Faces, the Mad Monk, which we're going to talk about in a second, and a couple of other like pieces. But it's currently unavailable. Now, my hope is they'll get to it somewhere in Finest, or there'll just be a 2025, 2026 edition.
Yeah.
I mean, again, every month when you see the solicitors come out, I'm always kind of really eagerly looking to see what's in there.
I've got a sort of Google Sheets sort of spreadsheet, and it has like omnibuses, deluxe editions, and absolute editions or artist editions that I've written down that may never have existed before. It's literally just written down of, if this appears in the solicitation, I am buying it, and I don't care what look my wife gives me when those packages arrive at the door. It's just a day one, and it's always such a great feeling when you open the solicitations and it's like, I
love it. Especially now.
There's no rhyme or reason. There's no rhyme or reason to it sometimes.
Especially now with DC Finest, because that is really like the thing I'm most excited about, because it's just like you're getting some really good stuff there. This kind of ends. You think it's a happy ending, but it really isn't. Like, so the first book ends with Batman getting Maroney to back off on Norman's debt, which he does.
Yeah, but that backfires, doesn't it? Because
that backfires spectacularly.
Well, I was going to say, before the finale, you've cruelly skipped over one of the best lines I think I've seen Alfred.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, it was so. I think Norman confesses to Julie on all the sort of loan sharking problems, and that he's going to have to sort. He's going to have to sort this out with Maroney. He's going to go there tonight. She rushes to Bruce and tells him, and she's, in Bruce's words, she's hysterical. And this is ultimately what sends Batman to the mansion, along with Hugo Stranger sending the Monster Men for their, the finale. And Alfred says, and so in keeping with conventional wisdom, you've chosen to secretly drug your girlfriend. Because the moment Julie tells him what's going on, he just drops some drugs in her water. Here, have this. She's asleep. Here, Alfred, you deal with my comatose girlfriend. I'm off to Batman. This is not the behavior of a sane man, but I love that his first reaction isn't even, he knows that midnight polo or jumping off to work isn't going to cut it. He's just going to have to drug her.
Yeah, completely. And this is the entire problem with this, because I think there's no woman until Selena Kyle where he reveals that, oh yeah, I'm Batman, and even Selena Kyle, it's done in reverse. It's Batman first and then Bruce Wayne later. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and I think that Julie feels like, and this is what makes it so tragic, Julie feels like someone he could trust and could be, have a more meaningful relationship with.
Yeah.
But of course, other things conspire against them. Because after he clears that debt, Norman is painfully aware that the Batman knows who he is, and his mind can't quite grasp that fact.
Yeah. And Batman says to him, "Oh, you're better than this. Just go home." At the mansion, in while there's this whole battle going on, and Norman's takeaway on this is, what, yeah, as you say, the Batman knows my name.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it shows the negative effect of the intimidation.
Yes.
It shows the negative effect of the identity of the Batman, the wider kind of legend.
And I think that cockiness we were talking about earlier is in he, literally grabs Maroni and said, once the monster men have been dealt with, he grabs Maroni, dangles him over the building, and says, "You absolve Norman of his debt, or else." We know it's an empty threat. He's not going to kill him, but Maroni doesn't, and so, but he doesn't realize what he's set in place with that conversation with those two. He thinks he's done the right thing. He's done the easiest thing. He saved the day with the minimum of effort.
Yeah.
Because, usually he's about bringing people to justice, beating them up, defeating these monster men now. Apparently that's his job. So to have solved this other issue with just 2 sentences, he must be feeling, cock of the walk. Absolutely.
Also, the interesting thing is, in the wider DC universe, I don't know if he knows Superman yet in this. I'm not sure he does. But surely you'd call in some help. You'd just go, look, these guys are huge, and I don't think I can actually really beat them. So
I don't know if that plays into Batman's always. I don't know if that's more sort of like jokes in Justice League, etc. But he's always very protective of Gotham. Like, Gotham is my city.
That is a canon thing, yeah.
Yeah,
that is an absolute canon. I think there's a great joke at the beginning of one of my favorite books, Cosmic Odyssey, where Light Ray, who's one of the new gods from New Genesis, and Superman are in Gotham, and they stop like an incursion of Darkseid.
Well, they have to go and apologise to.
Well, yeah, they have to. He says, Superman says kind of offhandedly, "Oh, I hope Batman won't mind us." Cleaning up, like coming and arriving, and Light Ray goes, "Well, I don't think he could have coped with this. Like, what do you mean mind?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll introduce you to him someday, and you'll figure it out." But he is, and that extends right the way up to like things like No Man's Land, where Superman flies into No Man's Land, and he basically gets told, "Nah, fuck off, don't need you." I'll handle this. But I think this is kind of one of those other things where he could have done with some superpowered backup. I don't know, and it does spiral out of control. The whole big thing at the mansion at the end, which is Carmine Falcone's mansion, is fantastic. I love that whole kind of big action sequence, and where he debuts the Batmobile for the first time as well. And you have that great joke with Alfred, where he says, "Oh, perhaps you should stick some fins on it and call it like a proper Batmobile." And then he kind of stops her and it goes, "You're actually considering it, aren't you?" And then when you get to the Mad Monk, of course, it has fins.
Yes, it does. And I was going to say, actually, with all these like Alfred asides, I think the next one also has a few zingers as well.
Oh, definitely.
But with all of them, I just realised how much I miss Alfred, and I guess I was just going to ask: Do you think DC will eventually bring him back? And if so, in what convoluted way will they do so?
I don't know, because we're due a kind of soft reboot of Batman in the next couple of months with Matt Fraction's new Batman book, Batman #1 coming.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Alfred turns up in that. They haven't said anything yet. But because we're going, it is, as always happens with comics, it's the back to basics approach. So we've got the lighter blue costume. I'm still not sure how I feel about the new costume again.
You'll love it by issue 3. You won't. If the story is good, you won't care.
Yeah, absolutely. You won't give a monkeys.
Yeah.
And there's enough kind of what would ostensibly be stupid costumes in, and I'm not saying that the costume that Jimenez has designed is stupid, but there's enough, if you like, stupid costumes in comics that you get used to.
But I feel like, the mechanisms of making comics, of, the beginning of any run is getting the toys out of the toy box, and then they gradually put the toys back in. Maybe they leave a few out for the next writer to slip on. But part of a new uniform is always, like you say, the back to basics moment. There will be always that thing where, all right, someone's given me a kicking. Now it's time for me to put on an older costume for, because that'll make me harder. Maybe we'll, I'm sure even Grant Morrison resorts to this, doesn't he? He brings back like the gold logo, sort of overall logo. There's someone will bring back their favorite costume. That will be a part of this run after X amount of issues.
I don't know if this is apocryphal and I'm just misremembering, but I think the gold chest plate was, although it has a practical purpose in the comics, which is to give people something to shoot at, so that the Kevlar will take the impact of the bullets and not his head or his face, or what's there of his face. I've got a feeling it was done so that I can't remember who the name of the editor was, but I think it's Julius Schwartz. It was done to mark his start on the book,
right?
Or Denny O'Neill's start on the book, and I think he asked the artist to start putting it in as it was a marker. I actually prefer the single, the back chest plate on grey. I don't know how we got into this. We should
English eras, isn't it? Like I remember you'll be reading something like, Superman's got a mullet. Okay.
Yeah. Which is an era I'll never quite get used to. But
we were talking about Alfred. How are we bringing him back? Are they going to reboot the universe again at some point? I guess maybe there's some kind of dark side thing with when they get bored of the absolute universe and they want some kind of intergalactic war or crisis, for a lack of a better term.
I don't think they're getting rid of that anytime soon, and I'm glad, because the absolute universe is giving me
it's very good.
Giving me hope. It's wonderful. Moving into the Mad Monk, which is the kind of even more horror afflicted of the two stories. Again, as you point out, based on an old detective comic story. This is set just a few months after the Monster Men, and the actions there start to have a catastrophic effect. So the mob is still very much in evidence in Gotham. Norman is drinking himself stupid every day, and locking himself into the apartment and turning out all the lights and keeping it dark in order to avoid Batman, who he thinks
like scribbles, like constantly scribbling.
Yeah,
he's literally obsessed by Batman.
Julie is still kind of trying to figure out if Bruce Wayne is.
That's what I was going to say, because I think the final page of the previous story is you see is setting up this obsession, because you've got Dr. Hugo Strange even is on TV talking about Batman and how he's like essentially relentless and insane and what have you, and you've got Norman watching it like, oh god, he already thinks Batman's after him, and then you've got a quote unquote a doctor saying, yeah, this Batman is absolutely ruthless and he will not stop. And then like you say, a few months later you see how this has affected Norman. He's just, he's looking over his shoulder, he's terrified of both the mob and Batman. It is not going well for him.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy. Incidentally, the Monster Men story was actually in Batman #1, which I'm it's quite a turn up. So
Is
it's
it
all
one
the
of
way back.
the stories? Okay.
So yeah, so the fallout is starting to kind of become apparent now. And again, into this comes it almost kind of makes a nice mirror for Monster Men, in that we're back with disappearing women, or disappearing young people at the very least, who are then appearing a few days later with their throats torn out. And that is kind of an uncrackable case by the police. And in fact, that's how Batman kind of enters this. He sort of gets given the case, so to speak, from Gordon. And I like that, and I like the fact that he has to go into the mortuary out of our hours, and the only reason he can do that is because he got the mortician out of a bit of danger with the mob. So I like the fact that Gordon is also the one calling in favors. This is like the Mad Monk is, I mean, it's a vampire story, really. Like that's what it is. It's exactly what it is. And we have this sort of mysterious Eastern European woman who's going around seducing young men and women, taking them off to this castle.
Which I wanted to say, how many castles are there in America? Because how America famously went through a medieval period.
I don't know. Here it's described as castle-like, isn't it? It's just a huge mansion.
There is a double page spread, and it's definitely a castle.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, yeah, there is a few statements in there that say that it's anachronistic, and it's from like a ridiculously wealthy family that make even Bruce sort of blush, etc. But it did really make me laugh. Like, okay, we're really going to lean into the Nosferatu theme, and we're essentially going to put Castle Dracula in Gotham. Sure,
yeah.
Okay. Let's just do it. Fine.
And it's kind of, I mean, the gothic horror is sort of played up to the max with this one. There's even like wolves later on. We have Gordon kind of being threatened by his fellow police because of his relationship with Batman, but then also finding allies who on the police who actually we think he's doing some good, and we want you to keep doing this. I mean, the Dracula thing is, they don't hide it. That, like, Nikolai, who is the Mad Monk, is called Nikolai Stepis, which is, Vlad Stepis is Dracula, and even Julie says, "Yeah, I never realised that the old Ralston Castle was actually a castle."
Going back to that moment where I think Jim is being beaten up by some other cops on the roof before Batman steps in. That includes a moment of, I think the line Jim has is, you look at his lips, you can almost see a smile on it as he dangles someone from the roof. And I think, again, this is almost leaning into that cockiness thing. It's almost like the Monster Men has just been a hiccup. He's just Batman's back on his normal routine, and he's dangling people off buildings. He's in his happy place.
Yeah. And what kind of makes me laugh about this is so Julie gets caught up in this quite early on. So she gets seduced by this is it Dara or Darla?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
the Eastern European goth chick.
Yeah, and Bruce realizes, oh yeah, she's been a victim of this. She's got the vampire bites on her neck, and he doesn't like. This is the time when you need to maybe be drugging her and keeping her at the manor.
I think that was my favorite panel, I think, in this story, because we've been talking about all the other moments where he's kind of like dodging, or he's letting her down. Oh, I can't make this date. Like, I think the first few pages of this book is Batman scrapping with Catwoman. She leaves a scratch on his chest, and my first thought was, "Oh, how are you gonna explain this?" And that does come up a few. Like, she does sit there in bed and say, "Bruce, what's that?" But yeah, that moment where I think she takes her coat off and exposes her neck. You just see this panel zoomed in on Bruce's eyes, and he's got this look of, oh, and he goes straight to a library and starts researching vampires. Like, I think doesn't he turn all the silver candleware into batarangs?
Yeah, but also he doesn't do anything really to protect her, which is kind of a bit.
Yeah,
he essentially uses her as bait, I think. And
yeah, this is where it gets a bit dodgy. You're right, because he should have probably drugged her and tried to look after her.
Well, we're not advocating for the drugging of women, by the way, guys. Sorry.
No, when Batman does it, it's fine. All other instances of drugging women is prohibited. It's the classic hero trope. Like, if Jack Bauer does torture, it's fine. If anyone else does torture, that's very bad, and you should definitely not do torture. So look, Rufy's in Batman's, as long as Batman's doing it, I trust him, okay? But yeah, you're right, it is dodgy, and it is really funny, and I think it's sort of almost on purpose that this man cannot have a normal relationship, in that, he's been lying to her, and I think, she was not trying to catch him out, but she was, like, she turns up one morning like a bit tipsy, a bit seductive, and opens the curtains and like, oh my god, you're all beaten up. And he's almost doing the same to her. He's following her. I think he bugs her car. This is not good boyfriend material, Bruce. I know his heart's in the right place. Like, he wants to protect her from being a vampire's dinner, but mate.
What fascinates me about this, and it always gets me every time I read it, I've read it 2 or 3 times, is that I keep expecting there to be a reveal where it's like, oh yeah, they're not vampires. It's actually just all a big fucking ruse to get the money. Because the thing that Nikolai persuades Julie to do is to sign over all her father's assets and money to him, so that he can, they can perpetuate this cult. And you kind of expect it to be that, and I fall for it every time, because every time I think there's going to be a reveal where it's kind of, no, there is no this. Of course, they're not fucking vampires. They're
the feeling that when he was hypnotizing, but in fact he was hypnotizing her. But when he hypnotized Julie to, like, get your father's passwords and documents. I just had the voice of Alan Rickman from Die Hard saying, I am an exceptional thief. Like you say, like, oh, he's not supernatural. He is just a crook, but there's some theatricality going on here. That's why he's not letting his other cult members like drink the blood from the victims to gain immortality. Yeah. You think there's these other twists, and that twist doesn't come. It's like, no. This guy's a vampire.
Yeah, and that is it. I mean, there's some sort of basis in the book where they talk about, hey, the eldest son of the Ralstone family was off in sort of Far Eastern Europe and may have fallen prey to some sort of weird cult. And this is who this guy is. He's not actually this Nikolai Stepan. He's someone else. but you're never given. Like, although Batman, you know, point blank says, "Oh, you're like Johnny Railstone, whatever the name. I forget the character's name now." I'm terrible on details, and it's never confirmed, and I love it about this because again, that's the whole thing where you start to go, "Oh yeah, this is Batman's world slipping into this utter madness," and this whole kind of vampiric Dracula persona that you've got is nothing when faced with the actual real thing. I mean, I love the what was one of my favorites was the big spread of carnage that Batmobile now with fins, very Joel Schumacher, this Batmobile causes when it comes through the wall of the castle. I love that. And of course he's brought the car in remotely because there he is in the background trying to free Julie. And I love the fact that it looks like a little dart as well. I think that's fantastic. But here you get this very kind of Schumacher HR Giger design, because I believe that for that Batman film, HR Giger did take a stab at designing the Batmobile. But I love that stuff. Also, I kind of love that Nikolai's like, you know, we've all got red hoods, but mine is the only one with the skull and crossbones on it.
Yes. It's definitely definitely that Mitchell and Webb meme of, are we the baddies? Like,
I think these guys know they're the bad guys. It's just like it's like, oh yeah, once you've stripped the 8th girl semi-naked and strapped her to a table and bled her, then you probably know you're the bad guy. And if you don't, maybe you're just a fucking idiot. But I love that.
Yeah. I was going to say, I love how all of that was happening while, I guess, your B plot with Norman is happening. So, you know, Bruce is following Julie. So he's hanging outside her apartment. She also lives with her father.
Yeah.
He spots Batman outside his window, which just, you know, sends him into a frenzy. Batman's got no idea he's got this effect at all on this guy. Norman you've already seen like little bits of Norman has found. Didn't he go to Falcone directly? Because he tries to give money
to Maroni. Yeah, he tries to give him back the.
So he ends up going to Falcone, and Falcone turns up at Maroni's office and is like, I don't know what this is about, but I never want to see that guy anywhere near me. Sort it out. He's just absolutely unhinged, not taking no for an answer. And so while Batman is trying to rescue Julie, Norman tries to solve his issue with the mob by trying to shoot Maroni.
And also, what's interesting is Norman's trying to retain a shred of dignity by paying back the money that he's taken from the mob.
Yeah.
But of course, Maroni, unknown to Norman, has been told, you know, don't take any money because.
I mean, look, everyone involved could have handled this better. I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say.
That's what you never see is the Batman pep talk where someone, either Gordon or Alfred, goes, "Look, every one of you could have handled this better."
I love how, like, I often sort of joke with the common trope of suicide by cop, but this did seem like suicide by mob. Like,
totally. Well, I think
my favourite moment of this is how Maroni, once he sees that Norman's dead, immediately spins round, finds a bystander, grabs this woman, and he's just sort of shouting at her like, "You saw it, right? That was self-defense. You saw it."
And that's why I think that's one of the reasons why I think had Wagner been kind of charged with continuing this sort of Dark Moon Rising, as they called it. The next one would have been sort of Robin, because we get the end where Bruce is swinging away, or Batman's swinging away, and there's the big billboard for Halley's Circus featuring the Flying Graysons coming soon to Gotham. And I think it would have been Two-Face, because I'm pretty sure it's canon that Maroni is the one that scars Harvey Dent's face. And we did get I think is it in Monster Men we get a guest appearance,
brief cameo, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I do like, I don't know if canon is the right word, but I do always enjoy it when people show the pre-Two-Faced Harvey Dent and sort of play up his duality like it always existed.
Yeah.
It was just, it was just taken to 11 by his accident.
There's that's the thing. I think when we get into sort of season 2 and we start to talk about more of the supervillains and things like that, if that's what we do, we're still deciding what we're going to do for season 2, but it is inevitable. We can discuss the sort of many versions of Two-Face and the origin and where that duality comes from, because there's been some interesting takes on it. And I think that there's some good stuff in there. I mean, here we see Bruce. This is, I think, the end of Mad Monk, where he's kind of
getting his letter.
He's getting his letter from Julie, and
I mean, he pretty much just says, "Yeah, we can't be together. My dad's dead because of you." Which is a nice letter considering, but that's the subtext.
It's as good. I mean, he does reveal that he is the Batman.
Yes.
And we get a sort of weird origin of the Mad Monk. It's kind of strange that sort of, you get a kind of, there's this weird little aside towards the end, which we don't have pictures of, I'm afraid, folks, where there's this kind of quasi-Egyptian period origin of the Mad Monk, which shows how far it all goes back. And Julie runs off and joins the Peace Corps. We don't know what happens to her. I need to check actually if she kind of comes back later on.
I think I looked on a sort of wiki thing. She's been used sparingly. We'll put it that way. I think she is definitely, like you say, she was one of his first loves, but they don't really go back to her, which does make me think she'd be fantastic to bring back.
Yeah, I think that Tom King uses her. I can't remember if she's the Phantasm from, there's Mask of the Phantasm,
Batman Catwoman book,
and then in the Batman Catwoman book, Tom King.
Oh, gosh,
this is one of the things with continuity. I mean, some of you guys seem to probably have a better recall of this stuff than I do. I can't hold it all in my head anymore. I used to be able to. Just like I used to be able to hold every comic I owned in my head. Can't do it now, and I quite often will buy things multiple times because I can't remember that I've got something.
I'm looking through Batman and just to see if. Oh, here we are.
I think, isn't that Julie Madison?
Oh, just trying to. I'm literally looking for a page that says, "And it is I, Julie Madison."
Julie Madison, yeah.
It doesn't seem to exist. There's a lot of words. Oh, here we are. When I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it is.
I can't remember from the animated film if it's meant to be Julie Madison.
See, I feel like whenever there's twists and reveals in any film, I think my brain automatically tries to forget so I can enjoy it again in 5, 10 years' time. I can't remember what film it was, but every time I think it's like David Fincher's The Game. Like
Yeah.
my brain automatically, as soon as I've watched it and enjoy it, my brain forgets the last 10 minutes so I can re-enjoy it some other time. But yeah, I find that sometimes with some twists. Actually, The Long Halloween is like that. My brain forgets.
I still can't remember who did it.
Oh yeah. But I was going to say, so yeah, I quite enjoyed this. There was one thing I wasn't sure about, which was Batman fighting the wolves. I mean, his method to defeat them was slamming them against a wall several times and then breaking one of them their back.
I think he tries a bunch of stuff, doesn't he?
He does.
He's not one animal cure.
He is getting mauled. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to have to go with their supernatural wall.
Yeah. He does try a bunch of stuff, as I recall, to try and get them to stop, and they don't. And eventually, he even says, "I don't think I've got any choice," and he has to kill them. So that happens. Yeah, Batman does kill some dogs in this,
but it does lead to another great Alfred line, and I knew there was one because I had to write that down. And he says, so I think Batman complains that Alfred is stitching him up, and Alfred hits back with, "It's not my fault you can't remain uninjured for more than a few days at a time."
Which is very true. That is one of the sort of downsides of the war on crime, is that he will get his ass kicked on a regular basis. Also, what's interesting is he doesn't seem to learn to be more efficient about, because surely at a certain point you would just roll in gas he's quite happy to drug his girlfriends on a regular basis. Why isn't he drugging the criminals? It's like, okay, well, once you've seen they're all in the criminal act.
Yes, he does with Red Hood's gang, with his with Mad Monk's gang, with his Batmobile. It's because he's wearing a Red Hood. Because I think he crashes the Batmobile in, doesn't he? And then that lets off gas because he's got like a little
it sprays gas everywhere. So all in all, I mean, I think these are definitely good ones to read. I mean, if you have the chance to get these, if they ever bring them out again in some sort of form,
they are on DC, their app. They are on the Infinite app.
Yeah.
That does seem to, like, a lot of the books that I haven't. I'd just say a lot of the books I haven't been able to find in real life, whether that be in print or single copies. I haven't come across something that isn't on there yet, so it's quite a good resource.
When Hammond suggested doing this podcast, I kind of leapt at the chance, but also it was with a bit of hesitation, because I realised that and I'm not saying this in kind of a boastful way, but my collection is really expensive in terms of Batman. So it takes up, for the trade shelves, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 6 boxes worth of stuff just for the trades for Batman, and then one stage, my Batman stuff took up 20 odd boxes, nearly, and then there was a little bit of DC and a little bit of Marvel, and I've since kind of slimmed it down to trade paperbacks and hardcovers, but it covers all of the modern era, so year 1 to New 52. It ends at New 52. And I've got a lot of stuff that isn't available, and that's what frustrates me, is because I'd like to shift entirely to trades now with the Batman collection, but I also realise there's some stuff that I'll perhaps never be able to get. and when talking to people about this Batman story or that Batman story, I do sometimes think, good luck getting it. Because also I do have.
I feel like if you're determined, you can find it, and I think eBay has a problem at the moment, which is a whole other thing. So
Yeah.
some sellers are desperate, so you can find bargains on eBay, but also, yeah, using that Infinite app, and bizarrely sometimes random things will be on Kindle. So if you know,
Very true. Yeah.
yeah, some of them are even on Kindle Unlimited. It's mad, but if you've got the time to work out where certain comics have been collected, sometimes those collected editions can be found digitally on those many different websites like that. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, I mean, I love finding random facts and random collections. Speaking of random, not even really that random, but speaking of packs of comics and collections, if you go to the Comic Crush website right now, the link's down there, into the Batman shop, you'll find a ton of really good Batman comics. Not these Batman comics, sadly, because I'm not buying my copies just yet. But of course, keep an eye out, because if by the time this podcast comes out, DC have decided to solicit the trade paperback or a new collection of Matt Wagner's stuff, my stuff will indeed go onto that website.
You're like a comic sponsor, 1 in, 1 out policy.
It's not really 1 in, 1 out. I do. I mean, my goal is really to get rid of as many comics at a time as possible. But yeah, they're all on there, folks. Free delivery if you order over £20 worth, and there's plenty of stuff, single issues from all across the Batman period. I've got some bronze stuff on there. I've got modern. I've got New 52. There are a ton of great DC comics on there, so do give that a look. And also, it helps keep me going. It helps do things like pay my rent, pay the bills for this website, which not massive, but not inconsiderable either. So do check that out. Help the Comic Crush out, because otherwise I can't keep doing stuff like this. We don't know what episode is coming next. Do check out the social media at thecomiccrush.bsky.social, at the Comic Crush on Insta and Threads, the Comic Crush on Facebook, where there will be the remaining options of themes that are left. We don't know how far we're into the series. This is the one problem with doing it this way. I feel so stupid for saying this is the way we should have done it. Maybe for season 2 we'll pick another way of doing it, but we wanted to involve you guys. We wanted to involve the audience. Do leave us a comment. Tell us, did you like?
Yeah, I was going to say possibly. We try and get some listener feedback on their ideas and themes, and we can.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that for season 2. What would you like to see? We're thinking of doing a sort of slightly more streamlined season 2, where it's just kind of one-shot stories and things like that. So
this is going to have to be. I'm just thinking, because of the way you're recording this episode, you're going to hope is going to be towards the end. Otherwise, this is issue 2. God, you're full of yourself, aren't you, Paul?
We'll have to see. It might be that no one watches and listens, and we won't get to season 2. We'll be a bunch of one-shot babies.
Look, we even if we don't record it, I'll still get on a call with you each week and just discuss what's happening. Whether you record it or not, it's not an issue. I had one last question actually though for you, and that was: do you think this type of Batman story or this style, I guess even how it looks, and we were talking about that sort of cartoonist, could this be adapted as a film, bearing in mind, when we grew up, you had the Schumacher films that you mentioned.
Yeah, totally.
What a weird reaction there was to them, because I guess they were so different to the Burton ones that have been successful.
Well, in a way, they're quite close to the Burton stuff in terms of that they are quite gothic. But as we were recording this, just before we jumped on, we were having a conversation amongst ourselves about the new Superman movie, which as we are recording, has just come out. We've done the podcast. There's that on the website and things. And I think in that space, this kind of story could exist. And I hope that Brave and the Bold, whatever it's going to look like, if that's where they go ahead, Batman Brave and the Bold, is going to be as wacky as the Superman movie was. Because as much as I loved the kind of grounded Dark Nolan stuff. I loved that. And those are my favorite types of Batman movies. I also feel that in my mind and my heart, I am ready for something that's a bit lighter than the Matt Reeves, which I liked. I gave it a really hard time, I think, when we reviewed it on the podcast.
Oh, did you?
I did actually, and in looking back, I probably gave it too hard a time, but that's because I'm a reactionary prick.
Well, I was going to say that one of my happiest memories reading comics as an adult was, I think it was in one of the first arcs of Morrison's Batman, where I think the League of Shadows are attacking, and there's ninja man bats, or just the caption "Ninja man bats" come from. And I remember stopping, sort of looking around and thinking, "This is so damn cool."
Yeah,
ninja man bats. Who comes up with that? And I'm just thinking, I'd love for one day a kid to be in a cinema, 11 or 12, and to have that same reaction with live action Batman film.
Yeah, completely.
Ninja man bats. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
And I think there is some stuff that when you read it, you kind of go, oh, that could only work in comics. But now increasingly, I think because of the movies and the way that and the approach have been done, like you don't know anything can be done until someone goes and does it, right? And it's almost like is it Moore's law of the future? Not Alan Moore, but that the only way to predict the future is to invent it. And I think the only way to predict how crazy comic book films can get is to go off and be crazy.
Sorry, you just saying that, Laura, has just helped me understand the whole subplot in a book I'm just reading. I literally just had a realization. But anyway, right, so that's what that means. All right, got it.
I'm happy to help in any way I can.
But I mean, I guess my final point would be, if you'd asked me 15 years ago, would me and my wife go to the cinema and watch a film about the Guardians of the Galaxy, who I don't think I was aware of.
No, me neither.
Reader, and have genuine emotions over a raccoon and his possum girlfriend and the torture they're being put under by some space Nazi, I would have looked at you like you're mad.
Yeah,
but
exactly, and I think it's down to the execution of it and down to the minds working on it, and I think there's absolutely room for this stuff to be part of the cinematic landscape, and then for something else to come on along a few years later and be completely different. I do wonder if eventually you run out of approaches movie wise. I think you can kind of, it ends up feeding back on itself. Like I don't think that Matt Reeves' Batman is a million miles away from Zack Snyder's Batman. Like,
okay,
you know what I mean? Like,
I think we would say not a million miles away from Nolan's, but I think they're different enough in certain ways. I hear what you're saying, but then it's like saying, "Oh, do you think they'll run out of approaches for Batman?" Like, I've read the latest few issues with no spoilers. I've read the latest few issues of Absolute Batman, and Scott Snyder's finding ways to surprise me every month. Like every month, I'm like, you can't keep getting away with this. This is genius. I think there's always new approaches.
Yeah, I've just done the review for the first arc of Absolute Batman which again, at the time we're recording, we're in July. The arc comes at the trade comes out in August. I was Batmaned out at the time Absolute Batman started. I was like, I'm not enjoying.
And then you agreed to do a weekly podcast on Batman
because we're looking at older Batman stories that I do like. That was the key. That's how you ensnared me into this, you fucker. But I was Batmaned out, and then this came along, and Absolute Batman came along. It's a complete shot in the arm for the character and for me, you know. So I'm always waiting to be kind of blown away by something, and I think that the thing is, as an audience member, is you've got to be willing to be blown away. And I think a lot of people go into this stuff with too much cynicism.
Sure. And actually, you know, making this about monsters and mad monks, that's kind of the feel. If I just looked at the covers of these, as lovely, you know, as they're drawn, looked at the synopsis, these weren't the books I was most excited to read for the first time, because I wasn't that fussed about monsters and mad monks.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we went into it, because it takes away your... I think if you just prescribe yourself one type of Batman or one type of any superhero, you're probably, you know, shutting yourself off from great stories. And I guess I've got one last thing to say about, I guess, the Absolute stuff in general. So this goes for Scott Snyder, Kelly Thompson, Dennis Camp, Al Ewing, Jason Aaron. I think they're all doing great stuff. But apparently, I don't know if this is apocryphal, and I can't remember which writer said it, but they said writing on the New 52 was a real slog, because they were given, I don't know if it was from editorial or marketing, but they were given a form that was literally, they had to explain how each issue was going to be like groundbreaking and never been done before, and how this changes everything. And they were saying that was just the worst thing they'd ever experienced, because how could you possibly do that each issue? That's impossible. I do that over an arc. And I completely agree with that statement. And yet, I'm reading these comics month to month. Almost every month, there has been something in each of them from all of these writers where I've just sat there and thought, son of a bitch, how did you think of that? You know, even down to how, you know, I think it's briefly seeded in the first arc of that Batman, you know, the existence of Arkham, but it's spelled very differently. And even by that spelling, I just remember thinking, oh my God, I want to have been there on those sort of brainstorming sessions. I don't know if it was just Scott and Nick Regatta, if they were doing it together, or if he was just sitting there brain dumping lots of cool stuff. But just the ideas per second that these books have about established is incredible. Yeah,
completely. And I'm so in for that particular universe, just as I was in for this particular sort of version of Batman, and stuck with it for years, because I went from the 1987 year one period all the way up to 2011 when it ostensibly ended.
So was this originally collected? Was this like a spin-off, or was this part of Detective Comics? Or
no, these were it was two miniseries like this. They both had these beautiful cardstock covers,
right?
And I think they ran over the course of 2 years. So they started in 2006. Or 2005, and then they ran right up into 2007. I think there might have been a little bit of a break in between, and yeah, so this was around 2005, I think. Monster Men, with Mad Monk starting late 2006. They were just miniseries. They probably would have got a lot of press because of Wagner, and I think Wagner had done The Mage at that time, amongst other things. He'd done a lot of other stuff. He did a mini-series called Trinity, which was like a prestige format series with Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, which I own but have still not read. And I can't recall what else he'd done, but he'd done a lot of stuff. He'd done the Batman Grendel crossover.
Mhm.
I want to say that was his first Batman, because he was writing a character called Grendel at the time. I forget for which label. It might have been Dark Horse. And he did a bunch of one shots and I think some minis as crossovers with Batman, which are still kind of held up as excellent comics, as is Grendel. So yeah, they would have just come out as miniseries. The sort of miniseries and what was happening on the kind of sub Batman channel, if you want to say, is where it's kind of you find some really good stuff. I don't think now there's any stone left unturned there for me in terms of owning it from that period from 87 to 2011. I think I've kind of got them all. I've still not read them all though. There are still unread, unknown areas for me that one day I will sit and kind of explore. But there's some great stuff there, and it's always worth diving in. If you can't find that stuff, some of the best places to get it is to look for the old part work collections from Hachette or Hero Collector, Edgemont, people like that. Because they, for some reason, DC granted them the rights to a lot of stuff that they weren't going to put out themselves. And therefore, you see some bizarre stuff being collected. And I always, whenever I see those things in like back issue stores or thrift stores and things like that, I always scour those books because there is good stuff in there. And most recently, like I think I found a bunch in like a charity shop, and I cleaned them out of some quite good stuff because I was like, oh yeah, like you can't get this, you can't get that normally, and you know, but yeah, like that's what I would do if you can't find that stuff. You know, always be willing to search around for a really good comic collection or for one that you will enjoy. All you really need is patience. Just be patient, and you'll find great stuff. And of course, if you're impatient, check out the Comic Crush web store. Right, we're out of here. We've actually done this one in under an hour and a half. I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with that. I hope you guys have had fun. Just want to leave you with quickly the fact that this series, The Mad Monk, threw up one of my all-time favorite Batman covers. I'm just going to show you that here. There you go. Oh, I've clicked off it now. There you go. Like that. I don't know why. I think it's the contrast between the white and the blood and the hand reaching up. I love that cover. It's one of my all-time favorites. Join us next time for whatever one we're doing next. Remember, you guys get to vote. Please do vote on what one you want. You can vote on Facebook. You can vote on Twitter, not Twitter, because we don't use that crap anymore. You can vote on Facebook, Insta. You can vote on Blue Sky and on Threads, any of the social medias, or you can just email paul@thecomiccrush.com, and your vote will be counted as to which one you want next. But we'll decide whichever gets the most votes will be the one that we go with. Maybe we're running out of shows. I don't know. But anyway, we're out of here. Helen, thank you very much for doing this once again. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Remember, you can get us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hope you tune in again. See you soon.